everyone. Thank you so much for attending our webinar today. On behalf of the International Students and Programs Office, also known as ISPO, we're excited to welcome you to UC San Diego. And my name is Summer Bennett. I'm an intake advisor at ISPO. I am a UCSD alumni. I completed my undergraduate degree here, but I've also been an international graduate student at Stockholm University in Sweden. I've worked in a few different countries, including South Korea, Australia, and Sweden. And I know that working in a different country can be very intimidating because of all the new rules. So I hope that this webinar will be helpful for you all to understand the rules around employment in the US as an F-1 international student. So there are just a few things that we want to go over before we begin the webinar. First, you're just in listen-only mode. That means that we can't hear you, but you can hear us. And the second thing is that we're recording this session. So we will post all of our webinars online at inewstudentwebinars.ucsd.edu, and we will post that link in the chat for you. And lastly, please use the Q&A box to get your questions answered. So you can type in your questions there, and our panelists will be answering these questions throughout the webinar and also at the end. You can also visit our website, icontact.ucsd.edu, if you would like to connect with us after today's session. So let's begin. We're happy to welcome you to our session, Working in the US for F1 students. So I will now hand it over to my colleague, Lisa.
Hi, everybody. My name is Lisa Swid, and I'm the Manager of Student Services here at ISPO. And I'm so excited to welcome you to our campus community and to this session about working in the United States. I know that this topic is very important to many of you, so thank you so much for being here and for being proactive. Just briefly, a little bit about my background. When I was a student, when I was an undergrad, I spent a year studying abroad in the Netherlands as an international student. And when I completed my undergrad degree, I actually decided to return to Europe to pursue higher education because I loved being abroad so much and learning about all the different cultures and traditions and just being somewhere different than what I was used to. And I know that coming to study and live in a different country can be super exciting. And sometimes it can be a little bit scary too, just because there is so much to learn. Things like transportation, how to find the food that you love, how to make new friends. So just so you know, ISPO is a great place for you to start your journey. We encourage you to reach out, come to our social events. We will certainly try to answer any questions or concerns that you might have. And if we don't know the answer, we'll do our best to try to find someone who does. When I'm not in the office, you can find me swimming in the Pacific Ocean year-round. It is super close to UC San Diego, so I hope that when you arrive, if you're not already here, that you will explore the underwater world that is right at your doorstep. It's really amazing. Okay, so let's get into the agenda for today. So again, we will be covering working in the United States for F1 students. And we will talk about the different types of employment that are available to F1 students specifically. We will talk about working both during and after your program of study, your eligibility timeline, and the proof of work authorization. And then we'll end with discussing various resources that are available to help you in your job search. F1 students may be eligible for various types of employment during their stay in the United States, and we will divide the types of employment that are available to you as ones that you can pursue during your program of study, and then ones that you can pursue after your program of study. So during your program of study, you can choose to work on campus at somewhere like the bookstore or perhaps research in a lab, for example. After your first year of study, then you would be eligible to pursue paid off-campus employment, which is known as curricular practical training or CPT. And this would be an opportunity for you to gain work experience in your field of study. During your program of study, you might also want to consider volunteering or participating in unpaid internships as a way to get some work experience. Just a brief reminder that during your program of study, your main priority is to be a student. So while school is in session, your employment is limited to a maximum of 20 hours a week. However, during breaks, you can choose to work more than that, and you can go up to full-time employment. Once you've completed your degree requirements and are no longer enrolled in coursework, then you might be eligible for a type of employment authorization that's known as optional practical training, or OPT. And this is a time where you can pursue employment at a minimum of 20 hours a week, or you can go up to full-time. And this is when you get to apply everything that you learned in school in the workplace. Okay, so now let's turn to look at when you can start each type of employment and the authorization that you would need. Before you begin working, you want to make sure that you have the proper proof of work authorization. For all types of employment authorization, you must be maintaining your F-1 status and hold a Form I-20 that is in good standing. Some types of employment will require that a notation is added to the second page of your Form I-20. Another type would require that you have the notation on your I-20 in addition to a document from USCIS that shows the approval. So it's super important to understand the differences in the different types of work authorization, and we will get into the details of each. Okay, so once you arrive to the United States in F-1 status, you are eligible to begin working on campus. Your on-campus work is defined as work that is done on the school premises. So, for example, this could be work at the library, or maybe the dining hall or residence hall, or at the bookstore, or maybe this is working as a teaching assistant or a researcher. And this is considered incidental to your status, and it does not need to be related to your field of study. On-campus employment is limited to 20 hours a week during the academic year. However, you can go up to full-time during the summer and during breaks. Only students who are enrolled are eligible to work on campus. The job does need to take place on the premises. It does not need to be related to your field of study, and you do need to obtain a job offer letter from the employer in order to begin. You would show the employer your Form I-20, and that is your proof of work authorization. Important to note is that any kind of paid employment would require you to apply for a social security number for tax purposes. So if you do get hired for a paid job, then your employer will request your social security number. A lot of students think that having the social security number is the same as having work authorization, but please note that those are two separate things. A social security number can only be used when it's paired with the proper work authorization through your on-campus employment or your CPT or OPT. So just in general, the social security number is a 9-digit identification number, which is assigned by the US government, and it's used for tax reporting purposes. And it's required for F-1 students who will be earning money in the United States. So if you're doing an unpaid internship or volunteer position, then you will not need a social security number. Again, this is only required if it's a paid position. It's a unique number that is permanent and it will never change. So if you're already in the United States, if you've been here already and you already have a social security number, then you will not need to apply for another one each time you obtain work authorization. And we do have a good amount of information on our website. So if you just go to ispo.ucsd.edu and then just go to the search bar and type in social security number, and you will find a good reference point on more information on social security numbers. Okay, so now let's move on to off-campus employment. F-1 students in their academic program of study will generally request authorization to engage in paid off-campus employment, or what's also known as curricular practical training, or CPT. For any kind of practical training, students are required to have first met the 1-year academic requirement. The 1 academic year requirement is defined as having been enrolled full-time for at least 3 quarters on the same SEVIS number in active status. So for some of you, you may have already started accruing that time towards a 1-year academic requirement. So This could apply. So you might have already started accruing time. If, for example, you have transferred your CBIS record from another institution. So maybe you were an undergrad at a US institution and now you're starting a graduate program at UC San Diego, then it's very likely that you've been on the same CBIS record for more than one academic year. If you have been enrolled at a US institution in a different non-immigrant status, such as H4, L2, E2, or J1, and then you got approved for a change of status to F1, then you have likely already met the one-year academic requirement. Or if you've done a change of academic level, so you went from one degree level to a higher degree on the same CBIS record, then you have already likely met the one-year academic requirements. So let's look a little bit deeper at CPT eligibility. Students can only work up to 20 hours during the academic year, but again, you are able to work more than 20 hours, go up to full-time during breaks. CPT is linked to a course or participation in a quarterly program. So each quarter that you are applying for CPT, you'll need to ensure that you're either enrolled in a course or that you'll be receiving course credit, or if you're working over the summer and you're a graduate student, perhaps you would be participating in the summer cooperative education program. Since course enrollment is required, you do need to apply for CPT each quarter. So let's say, for example, you find a great internship that you're super interested in and they offer you a position from October 1st until March 20th. So you'll note that fall quarter is from September to December, and then winter quarter is from January through March. So in that case, because the dates of your employment would overlap with those two quarters, you would need to apply for CPT for fall quarter, and then you would also need to apply for it for winter quarter. So you would have two separate applications. In order to begin the process of applying for work authorization with CPT, you'll need to receive a job offer letter for the paid employment. The job has to be related to your field of study, and you must have met the one-year academic requirement, which we talked about earlier. CPT is authorized by ISPO, and if approved, the CPT authorization would be reflected on the second page of your Form I-20. So just make sure before starting any kind of employment, you want to make, if it's off campus, CPT, just make sure that that notation is correct on your I-20. And you can always visit cpt.ucsd.edu to get more information on this process. Okay, so now we've covered information about how to, about working during your program, and now we're going to move on to information about working after you graduate. So students who complete their program of study are eligible for post-completion work authorization, which is also known as optional practical training, or OPT. And many students oftentimes think that OPT is a different visa type, but the period of OPT employment is still part of your F-1 program. So you can think of your F-1 program divided into two parts. So the first part is enrollment and completion of your degree requirements. And then the second part is applying everything that you learned during your program of study, and then you're going to apply it to the workplace for up to 12 months. So during the second part, you are still considered an F-1 student, but you're maintaining your status through employment instead of enrollment. If you happen to be a STEM major, then once you're granted the approval for OPT, then you might be eligible to extend the employment authorization for an additional 24 months. That's called a STEM OPT extension. Unlike CPT, you'll notice that you do not need to have a job offer in order to apply for OPT. Once you're approved for OPT, you will have, you can accrue up to 90 days of unemployment. So you do have time to look for a job, but having a job offer in hand is not part of the application process. Once your OPT is approved, you can work a minimum of 20 hours per week. You can be engaged in paid employment, unpaid, you can be volunteer off campus or on campus during the OPT period. The most important thing is that the job is related to your field of study, and you must have met the one-year academic requirement. So OPT is something that is recommended by ISPO. And then you will need to have, so the recommendation will be on the second page of your Form I-20, and then you will use the OPT I-20 as part of the application that you submit to USCIS. Once USCIS approves your application, they will mail your form of work authorization, which is known as the Employment Authorization Document, or the EAD card. They will mail that to you, and that will have a start date, which indicates when you can begin your OPT. So for more information about OPT, you can visit the website opt.ucsd.edu. So you can see we try to keep our websites very easy to remember. For CPT, cpt.ucsd.edu, OPT, opt.ucsd.edu. So feel free to check those out. So I know that that was a lot of information. Hopefully I didn't overwhelm you. So I'm going to take a look at a typical student's timeline at UC San Diego for each employment type that we've covered today. So our example timeline will follow a graduate student who is enrolled in a 2-year master's program. So once you arrive to the United States in F-1 status, you're immediately eligible for on-campus employment. So on-campus employment after graduation could be possible in a non-student appointment with approval of OPT. But to work off campus and pursue CPT, you must first meet the 1 full academic year requirement for practical training. This requires that a student enroll for a minimum of 3 quarters at UC San Diego on the current CVIS ID number prior to engaging in off-campus paid internships or CPT. Once you complete your program and graduate, then you are no longer eligible for CPT. So CPT is something that you do during your program of study. It's curricular and requires enrollment. After you graduate and you want to pursue OPT, you must also meet the 1 full year academic requirements. And again, that requires that you have been enrolled for a minimum of 3 quarters on the same CVIS ID. And then once you complete your program and graduate, any type of work that you engage in would be through the approved post-completion optional practical training, or OPT. So where do you begin? This was a lot of information, and if you're feeling overwhelmed, a great place to start is just going to iwork.ucsd.edu. This is where we have compiled a lot of important information of what we covered today, in addition to other resources on campus that can help you to start your career exploration journey. And when it comes time for you to begin your employment search, I just want to cover some of the resources and support services that are available to you at UC San Diego. So the ISPO advisors, there are many of us here in the office. We are a great resource for discussing employment authorization or anything related to your F-1 visa status. Your department or college, they're great for understanding your timeline to complete your program, or which course to enroll in for CPT for the internship courses. Faculty and alumni, these are great for creating networks and opportunities for lab research or industry jobs, just people who are great to connect with for advice and resources after you graduate. And then the Career Center, this is a wonderful place to start. Some departments might even have career advisors within the department who can help you to find positions that are directly related to your field of study. So the Career Center, you can find information about them at career.ucsd.edu, and they can definitely help you to plan for your future. They can help you with writing and reviewing your resume, your cover letters. They can do practice interviews with you when the time comes. And they can also help you to discover and search for various internships and research opportunities, both on and off campus in your field of study. And they also host resource fairs and networking events, and they can help you to figure out how to use the online job search tools such as Handshake, Going Global, LinkedIn, and Indeed. So for those, and in addition, for those who are looking to get into graduate programs or medical school, they can also walk you through those steps and help you to become a more competitive candidate. So they are an incredible resource. They have wonderful career coaches and advisors who will take the time to help you to prepare for those next steps. A lot of students might wait to utilize these services until the end of their program. But I highly advise connecting with them earlier on in your program, just so you can get familiar with all of the amazing resources that are available to you. So just an important reminder as we start to wrap up is you must receive the proper form of work authorization before you begin your employment. Visit iportal.ucsd.edu. That is where you would apply for the employment related documents. So you should be familiar already with iPortal. That's how you requested your I-20, and that is that's where you make the request for anything really from our office. So your employment authorization, for support letters, for CPT authorization, for the OPT recommendation. So make sure also once we process your documents that it is correct. We're all human, so sometimes we might make a mistake. So just make sure that the information that we put on your document is correct. And if you see any error, make sure that you contact our office so that we can correct it for you. Okay, and now I think we will turn it over for if you have any questions. Let's see.
Let's see. I do see quite a lot of questions about STEM OPT. So how would a student know if they're eligible for STEM OPT?
That's a great question. So actually on our website, and I'll find it in a minute and I'll drop it in the chat. There's a link where you can search. So it depends on what your major is. On your I-20, you'll see your major and you'll see something called a SIP code. There's a number associated with your major. And you can search on a website to see if you are a STEM major or not.
Great, thank you. And could you talk a little bit more about the CPT course, please?
Yeah, so it just depends on your department. There usually it's like an independent study course. I would recommend going to cpt.ucsd.edu, and we have a section there about course enrollment. Definitely talk to your advisor or your department to get advice on which course is best to enroll in. It is something that's available after you've met the 1-year academic requirements. It does need to be related to your field of study. Typically, it's like I said, it's like an independent study course that you would work with your department on figuring out which course to enroll in. That would qualify for CPT. And if you have any issues with finding a course that meets the CPT requirements, there's also something called AIP, which is available for undergraduate students. It's called the Academic Internship Program. It's aip.ucsd.edu, and they can help you. So you would enroll in a course that's an AIP course, and that is a course that you could enroll in to get credit for the internship that you would be doing.
Great, thank you, Lisa. I saw another good question. I saw Vanessa answered it, but maybe it's good to also talk about. A student asked if they can work under CPT outside the US.
I think that's a great question to come to Zoom advising for. I think it will really depend on what the job is, and for how long would you be out? Like, is it something that you'd be working just for a couple of weeks outside the United States? Because if you're a student here in the United States, and you should be inside the United States. So I guess I would have some follow-up questions, and it might be something that we would need to work with this. It would depend on your case. We'd want to look a little bit closer. So I don't know. I need a little bit more details to be able to answer that. So come to Zoom advising is the advice, and speak with an advisor.
Another question that I know was also answered, but I see a similar question, is about students who have already maybe previously done OPT with a different degree, or potentially students who did CPT with while completing a previous program. So would students be, in those cases, still be able to apply for CPT and OPT with their current program at UC San Diego?
Yeah, definitely. So you're eligible to, so for CPT and OPT, it's related to the program of study that you're currently enrolled in. So if let's say you've done an undergrad in the United States and now you're here at UC San Diego as a graduate program, you would be eligible to do OPT during your undergrad degree if you've already pursued that, and then you can do it again. It's available for each degree level. And then one other note that came, that just popped into my mind as you asked that question is for CPT, if you do 12 months of full-time CPT, that could impact your eligibility for the OPT. So just keep in mind, if you are a graduate student, for example, like you're a PhD student and you pursue full-time CPT every summer during your PhD program, that could impact your OPT. So you don't want to go more than 12 months of full-time CPT because that would make you ineligible for OPT. So make sure you're just watching the clock on that. But part-time is fine. So you can do part-time CPT, for 12 months or more. But if you do full-time CPT for 12 months, then that could impact your eligibility for OPT.
Hi, Lisa. We have a really great question that says, does CPT allow for freelancing work if the work is related to the major? So I think that's a great question. Maybe also thinking about the requirements for CPT in terms of your offer letter.
Yeah, that is a great question that I'm going to refer to our website on. Freelancing should be, so CPT does require a job offer letter. You have to have a place of employment. So I think I would want, when you apply for CPT, it does get reviewed by the advisors here. So it would depend on, what the job offer entails. So I guess I want more information on what you mean by freelancing. Who is the employer? Where is the employment located? What are the hours? How is it related to your field of study? So it could be allowed depending on what is in the job offer letter. It has to be on like official letterhead. So yeah, always come to Zoom advising with these questions because it can be case by case, and know that the advisors here will do what we can to work with you. We oftentimes have to go back to the regulations. Sometimes it's not black and white. It's not super clear. So sometimes if there is a question that is a little bit in the gray area, we look at what you're coming to us with. What is the job offer? What is it that you're trying to do? And then we'll go back to the regulations and see if it's something that we can approve or not. So we'll definitely do what we can to work with you. I don't have a clear answer just because I don't have a job offer in front of me. But I invite you to visit our office with the job offer and see if it's possible. Explore it. We'll see what we can do. And it also, again, it requires the course enrollment. So how is the job related to your field of study? Is this something that your department is supportive of? So more questions than answers for that question. But I don't know if anyone else on the call has some additional answers that they would want to share for that question.
Sometimes students are asking if they need a W-2 or a 1099. Sometimes I think that might be the crux of the question, and sometimes not. Sometimes it's just, can I work freelance, true freelance? But in terms of the W-2 and 1099 being more geared towards like quote unquote independent contractors, I think it's just really important for students to know that CPT is designed to be an integral part of your education. So when you submit for a CPT while you're enrolled, your offer letter needs to indicate that you have a supervisor and that the expectations of your position are quite clear. So that way we as advisors can confirm that is a part of your education. So that's a test you can use as a student to figure out if that freelance is applicable. Are you being supervised, and is there a way to measure your performance in your job, and is that indicated on your offer letter?
Yeah, it's a great point. So it's curricular practical training, as Vanessa mentioned. It's part of your degree program. you're getting course credit for the work that you're doing.
Oh, this is a really great question. Where can I find out about open vacancies for on-campus jobs?
The Career Center is a great place to start. Once you're here at UCSD, you will have access to Handshake and various websites, and the Career Center has all of the details and all of the information to help you get started on that. Yeah, the Career Center. Go visit them sooner rather than later. They're just fabulous.
Hi, Lisa. So we have a couple of really good questions regarding traveling and OPT. And so some of the general recommendations. So one question is asking a little bit more about like recommendations for maybe doing the job search abroad and then coming back when they have secured employment. And we have another question asking if a student can travel outside of the US once OPT has been approved. So can you just generally speak to some of the recommendations we give in regards to travel at different parts of the OPT process?
Yeah, for sure. So when you apply for OPT, so there's various stages. So again, go to opt.ucsd.edu to see the different stages. But the first step is going to be applying for the OPT I-20 from our office. And then you're going to submit your application with USCIS. Once you submit the application with USCIS, your OPT application is now pending with that government office. And we advise that you do not travel while your application is pending because your I-94, your arrival departure information will change. And that could result in in something called a request for evidence, which could basically just delay your OPT application. So if the information that you originally submit to USCIS changes, they could then send a request for evidence, and then you have to respond to the request for evidence. They have to receive it. It could delay the process. It might not happen, but we just want you to be aware of that risk. So we generally advise that you do not travel until your OPT is approved and you've received your EAD card in hand. That way, when you depart the United States and you're ready to come back in, you have all of your documents in order. So you would have your passport that's good for 6 months into the future. You have your OPT I-20 with a valid travel signature. And when you're on OPT, the signature is good for 6 months. You would have your EAD card that shows the approved OPT. And then we also advise traveling with the job offer letter, something that shows that you're entering the United States to pursue your approved employment. So that's kind of our general advice. Obviously you can do whatever you want because, if you depart the United States and you choose to take, more risks than others, that's totally your choice. And some students do that, but our advice is more on the conservative side, just because we don't want you to face delays in your application. The other risk is also if you depart the United States and they process your OPT application and they see that you've departed the United States, they could assume that you've abandoned your application and then just deny it. We've never actually seen that happen, but that is a risk. So we just want you to be fully aware of the risks involved. And so in general, we advise not traveling while your application is pending and travel only once the OPT is approved. Hopefully that answered the question. Any other questions? If not, then we can move on to a little bit more information that Summer will share about ways to get involved once you arrive, if you're not already here. We have so much information on our website and we have Zoom advising. So hopefully this is just the start of a larger conversation about working in the United States. Feel free to reach out to us through Zoom advising or through contact form, or visit us at coffee hours. You're welcome to approach us there as well. So Summer, I'll hand it over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Lisa. Yeah, as Lisa mentioned, we have a lot of different programs happening for orientation, and I'll talk about a few of them briefly. If you're unfamiliar, programs are basically organized activities, and they can give you an opportunity to socialize, meet people, and to get involved with UCSD and San Diego communities. So first up here, we see meetups. Meetups are a great way to meet other international students at UC San Diego. And there are two types of meetups right now. The first one is interest groups. So if you have a common interest, for example, sports or swimming, then you can meet people with similar interests as you. And it might be an easier way to connect with others. And there are also regional meetups, so people from the same region as you. And yeah, to register, we have a link at the top that I can put in the chat. And then on the next slide, we have some information about our events calendar. Let's see. Could we hop to the next slide, please? Let's see, thank you. Okay, so our events calendar, it's on our website and it's automatically updated with all of the events that happen year round. Right now, there's a lot of information about things happening the next 2 weeks. So for example, on the left, we see the UC San Diego bus tour. At the moment, that is all full, but you can also sign up to be on the wait list. And that is a tour of San Diego happening this weekend and also next Saturday. We also have the International Student Fan Fest happening next week. It's happening right before the women's volleyball game at 7. So the event starts at 5:30. There'll be free food and giveaways and games. So I encourage you to check that out. And we also have international mixers. So yeah, I encourage you to check out the website, ievents.ucsd.edu, and maybe keep it bookmarked so you can check about different opportunities throughout the year. Okay. We also have global coffee hours happening next week, every day next week, actually, from 10:30 to 11:30 in the morning. That's at the Eucalyptus Grove, which is located just next to our office. So there will be free coffee, free pastries. It's Get CCR eligible. And it's a great way to also meet people, especially with so many new international students arriving this week. I encourage you to attend and meet the staff there as well as your other international students. And here are some more orientation events. If you're a grad student, you may have gotten some emails about the Grad Pals program. So there is a mixer happening on Monday, September 18th. So if you are interested in the Grad Pals program, you can find more information at iEvents. We also have the International Peer Coach program. So if you want a mentor during your time at UCSD, this is another great way to connect to other students. And we also have a Global Ambassadors program mixer, so a social event on September 27th. Yeah, and so our events, if they're capped, then it's generally due to the space that we have. So for example, some events such as the Global Coffee Hour, you can come. And if you go to iEvents calendar, you can see that there are links to register. So yeah, to go check out the calendar and you can register for the events beforehand, so you can for sure have a spot. Okay, and here's a screenshot of the iEvents calendar. So you can see what it looks like and you can scroll through and it's organized based on the date. So the soonest events will be at the top for you. Right, okay, there is also a giveaway opportunity happening right now. So we're raffling off some gift cards and swag. Swag means things like t-shirts, tote bags, or water bottles, for example. So to enter, you can follow us on Instagram, like our post that looks like this. Take a picture at one of our orientation events and post it as a story or a post and tag us. And they can be from attending the workshop or one of our social events, one of the events we just mentioned. Yeah. Okay, thank you so much for attending today's session. If you have an extra minute, we have a survey. So if you scan the QR code here, it will take you to a survey for this session. And if you have any feedback, we always want to make sure we can improve our sessions and better serve you. So please do that if you have a moment. And some final reminders while you're filling that out. Please continue to register for orientation sessions by visiting our website. You can always contact us at ISPO by visiting icontact.ucsd.edu. So it's that link at the end there. And also, if you have arrived in San Diego in the US already, please don't forget to submit your check-in form on iPortal. Okay. Right, and thank you everyone for attending today's session. We hope that it was very helpful for you. And whether you're joining us from the inside of the US or if you're still on the other side of the world, we're excited to welcome you to UC San Diego, and we hope that you enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.